Hello, everyone. I'm Sphinx, and we will be doing a journey to the Bonfire in the Underworld this evening.
But as some of you experienced this morning, generally we begin everything we do in the Unnamed Path with tree breathing. So if you were lucky enough to experience Sawyer's version this morning, you're going to get to experience my version now, because we all do it just a little bit differently from one another.
We all have the same guideposts, but how we get to them and cross them are all different. Some of the tech that we'll experience is we'll do the tree breathing, we'll go into the Underworld, you'll go to the Bonfire, you will experience spirits, have boundaries. If you want a member of your spiritual court, tell them to come on. If you just want to chat at the bonfire, just chat at the bonfire. It's up to you. This is an opportunity, if you want to build out your spiritual court by having an ancestor of men who love men follow you back if you would like that, be it for a day or a season. And if nothing else, you'll know the terrain of the area so you can go back on your own accord to possibly find someone to bolster you and the work that you do. So, but completely up to you what you do with that after we do it, okay?
And I'm going to take you on sort of like a quick little spin of the Underworld and the Upper World. So we'll pass through the bonfire one time, but then Sphinx will take you on a more measured and contemplative sort of journey where you can have a little bit more interaction. So don't feel like you're missing out when I only let you stay there a few moments, okay?
Just the leg land. Anyone have any questions before we start? Any questions about tech? Any questions about you're completely safe? Everything will respect your boundaries. Just have them. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. If it's a maybe, it's a no. So.
Oh, and I will say that I have a little dog who has been going nuts about the noise going on in the neighborhood. So there may be some dog barking. I will try to just ignore it. I hope you can too. We ready to begin? All right. Invite you to get into a comfortable position with your feet flat on the floor. We're going to start with a series of deep breaths. Take a deep breath. And as you release it, try to let go of all of the cares, all your mundane cares. And on the next breath, I want you to really feel the surface pressing up against you where you're seated and against your arms and the floor and the air around you. Just be very present. Now we're going to take one more breath, and I want you to charge it with energy. And as you exhale, feel roots begin to grow out of your tailbone and out of the soles of your feet and burrow down through the floor. And the roots go down through the foundation of the building where you're sitting and into the earth, down into the soil, past the burrows of the creatures that dwell there, down into the clay, past the bones of the dead, past the ruins of men's civilization, and down into the stone. Down past all the dark and secret places in the earth. Stone, and then space, and then cold water, and then stone again. And down, and down, and down. And just as you start to feel a glimmer of the heat of the living heart of the earth, you pass out of stone and into a wide open space that spreads out around you. This is a lush world, and it is dimly but pervasively lit. You are now in the underworld. And you see trees and forests and plains and on, everywhere lit by this dim light that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. But as you look around, you become aware of the red light of fire burning in 3 places. And we move through the forest to the nearest of these. The trees are covered with moss and choked by underbrush, but you pass through and eventually you come to a place that opens up like a cathedral or a great hall, but the walls are made of the living wood. And this space is lit by braziers, and there on an earthen throne sits the dark god of the unnamed path. Horns are on his head, hooves are on his feet. He is hairy and he is very hard. And dark fire burns in his eyes. And he rises to greet you. And if it pleases him, he may have a word or two to say to you about your passions and the things that drive you. And then he gives you his blessing and he returns to his throne. And we follow where his gaze leads, out through an opening in the trees and down onto the plain where a huge bonfire burns. And we move towards that bonfire, and as we draw closer, we see a throng of the mighty dead, dancing, singing, celebrating in all sorts of ways. These are the ancestors of men who love men, and we realize now that the dark god is watching over them in their revelries and debauchery. And as you move through them, feel them welcome you and greet you and brush past you on their paths. And you may find that someone has a word to say to you. And then we move on past this fire, and off in the darkness in the distance, we see a third fire burning, and we move towards it. And the ground beneath us changes from fields to dirt to stone to ashes and bone. And as we walk through this wasteland, we come to a river of blood. And crossing that, we find ourselves in the grounds of a temple that is old beyond all imagining, and it is decaying and falling apart, but there in an open spot, a fire burns beneath an obsidian cauldron, and a dark woman in a ragged cloak tends to that cauldron. This is the dark goddess of the unnamed path, and she greets you, and if it pleases her, she may have some things to say to you about all the things that you might have been and all the things that you still might be in your destiny. And she gives you her blessing. And as you look upon her face, you realize now that she is not dark like a void, but dark like a starry night out in the country on a cold, clear night. And you see the points of light within her. And these stars, the star field opens before you, and you find yourself falling into a starry sky. And for just a moment, you touch the sum of all of your potential. And then you find yourself back in the place where you entered this realm. And looking out over the underworld, you breathe in and pull the energy of this place towards you from the dark god and the ancestors and the dark goddess. And this energy is syrupy and dark and slick. And you pull it towards you, and your roots that brought you here drink it up, and they pull it back to that place deep beneath the earth where you first felt the heat of the living heart of the earth. And on your breath, you pull that energy up through the stone, past the dark and secret places, through the clay, past the ruins and the bones, through the soil, past the burrows, through the foundation, through the floor, until it pools all around your feet. And on your breath, you pull that energy up your legs, up to your knees, and then to your hips, where it bathes your sex and your ass. And on your breath, you pull the energy up further up through your torso to your shoulders, where it spills down your arms into your fingers. And on your breath, you pull that energy up until it fills every last bit of you. And everywhere this energy touches is healed and pulled into alignment. And wanting more, we breathe up more energy. and more of the underworld energy, and more until you are full almost to bursting, and then burst it does from the crown of your head and your shoulders in branches that grow up through the ceiling of the room that you're in and up through the roof, up through the spaces where ordinary men live their lives, up past the tops of the tallest of trees, up past all the high and secret places in the air, past the areas of the eagles and the tops of the mountains, until you find yourself just beneath the clouds. And with another breath, we push into the dimness and damp of the clouds, and suddenly we pass into a wide open space that is dry and warm and brightly lit. This is the upper world, and it spreads out around you, a vibrant world above golden fields and beneath a brightly shining sky. And the light seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. And although it is brilliantly bright, it does not dazzle your eyes, and you can see clearly. And as you look around, you notice through all of this brilliant 3 shafts of white light shining up into the sky. And we move up a path towards the first of these, and we find ourselves at a temple scarcely younger than the one we saw in the underworld, but this one is pristine and untouched by neglect or decay, and its white marble carvings are as sharp as the day they were carved. And passing into this temple, we find on his throne in a bright open courtyard the light god of the Unnamed Path. In his broad chest, and his feet are bare, and a simple white cloth winds around his waist. And a golden circlet is on his forehead, and white fire burns in his eyes. And he rises to greet you. And if it pleases him, he may have some words to say to you about what you do for others, your work in this life. And then he gives you his blessing and returns to his throne. And we follow where his eyes are leading, and we move out of the temple and onto a plain where a city is laid out in orderly streets at right angles to one another. And in the center of this city is a circular plaza where 4 beings stand with bright globes of light, and all around wheel like a flock of starlings, flashing lights in every color. And as you stand in this plaza beneath these lights, you realize that this is the city of the spirit guides, and that each of the flashing lights is merely one of the guides traveling along his own idiosyncratic path. And if one of their paths happens to align with your current path, you may find he has something to say to you at this point. And leaving this city, we move on across the plain towards an enormous tower from which a shaft of light shines upward. And climbing this tower, we find a woman in white tending an enormous wheel from which the light arises. This is the light goddess of the Unnamed Path tending her wheel of destiny. And when she turns to look at you, you see her eyes are dark and pitiless, and that she sees you exactly as you are, without your hope of hiding anything or dissembling in any way. And if it pleases her, she may have some words to say about the things in your life that need to be healed and the things in your life that need to be discarded. And after a moment, she takes you lightly by the waist and lifts you up and casts you into the shaft of light. And you feel its energy pouring through you. And this is a healing light, but it will also burn away the dross of your life if you have the bravery to let it go. And after a moment, you find yourself back in the place where you entered this realm. And you look around and you breathe and you pull towards you the scintillating, sizzling, fizzy energy of this place, bright, shining, and sparkling. And as you pull the energy from the light god and the spirit guides and the light goddess, your branches break out into leaf and flower, and they drink in this energy and pull it back down to that place just below the clouds. And on your breath, this sparkling energy pours down your branches, past the tops of the mountains and the eagles in the secret places, and the tops of the trees in the spaces of men's ordinary lives, and the roof and the ceiling until it hovers just above your head. And on your breath, this energy flows down into your eyes and your nose and your ears and your mouth. And on your breath, it flows down your shoulders and down your arms to your fingertips and down your torso. And on your breath, it flows down and coats your entire body. But this light, this membrane of light does not separate you from the world. It connects you to the world. You feel your senses deepen and your awareness heightened and your insight sharpened. And wanting more, we breathe down more of the upper world energy, and it sinks down into our body where it meets the energy of the underworld already there. And on your breath, these two energies recognize one another, and they delight and exalt in one another, and they whirl and they dance and they spin within you. And on your breath, this dance reaches a crescendo, and all that energy rushes to your heart, filling it with love, increasing its capacity to love, and opening that fifth chamber of your heart that is your legacy as a man who loves men. And then that energy explodes out from you in all directions, seeking other men who love men. First, just in your immediate vicinity, and then it's traveling miles, and then tens of miles, and then hundreds of miles until it reaches the sea. And on your breath, it rushes east and west and north and south, covering the entire globe and touching the heart of every man who loves men. And every heart that is touched reflects that love back to you. So soon you are awash in an ocean of love. These are your people. This is your tribe. This is home. Breathe into this space. Draw strength from them and give strength back. Comfort and be comforted. Love and be loved. And know this space is always there when you need it. And now I'm going to leave you in this space. In a moment, my brother Sphinx is going to take you on the rest of your journey.
This world tree that you have created, where you are connected to the great above, and you are connected to the great below, and you're connected to the great center. All of this power is always yours. This practice is just a reminder of what you already have. So breathe into that space one more time with that knowledge so that it sinks into your bone and sinew and spirit. And then I invite you in your mind's eye to step out of the world tree you have created energetically and turn to face it. What type of tree is it for you? Run your hands along the bark. Notice its canopy. Notice its thick roots. We're journeying today, and our intention is to journey to the bonfire of the ancestors in the underworld. With that intention in mind, place your hand on the tree and feel it reverberate with understanding and response. Walk around the world tree until you see an opening and step into the tree. Inside the world tree, you will see a staircase that spins up to the upper world and a staircase that spins down to the underworld. And so we begin to journey down. with our intention to seek the ancestors of the men who love men. And we begin to step slowly at first. Then we take 2 steps at a time. And as excitement builds, we go 3. We're beginning to leap, and then we fly. Our feet no longer touching the stairs. And we drop further and further into the underworld, and finally, no longer wanting the stairs, we jump into the center, flying down. Eventually seeing that dimly lit world rising to meet us. And as the wind blushes by our skin, we stop, and then gently light upon the ground. What does the ground feel like in the underworld to you? How does the air feel on your skin? What do you see? What do you smell? And seeing that very familiar path that leads us to the 3 fires, we begin to journey down to the bonfire of the ancestors. Giving a nod to the dark god, he stands to walk with us, keeping a distance that is comfortable for you, close for some, just observing for others. Whatever makes you feel safe. And as you draw near to the bonfire, you see the ancestors of men who love men dancing in their revelry. Some drinking, some eating, interactions of all type, of all senses and sensation can be found here. As you take in what is happening before you, you catch the eye of one of them. They stop what they're doing and they move toward you. What form are they taking for you? What race do they appear? What clothing do they wear? As that particular one draws near to you, they have information to give. Commune with them for a short time, and we will all come back together in a moment. Take this time and commune. The time of communing is drawing to a close. Make any final goodbyes you need to make. Is this particular entity joining your spiritual cord for a time? Are they going to stay with you as long as you remain embodied? Are they simply going back to the bonfire? Any final words or agreements? Speak them quickly as we go. Know that you can return to this place at any time, using the world tree technique, interacting with the persons and entities here. Look around the underworld one final time. Breathe it in. We take another long look at the bonfire, and we remember that pools of water and fires such as these are also portals in the upper worlds and underworlds. Remembering such things, we run and we jump into the flame and find ourselves on that staircase in that entrance that we used to go into the world tree to begin with. Getting our bearings around us, we step out of the world tree and turn to face it. We put a hand on the world tree and a hand on our hearts, giving a breath of thanks and gratitude for the experiences that we had. Then we take another breath and we merge back into the world tree, feeling our roots descend and connecting us to the underworld, feeling our branches extend and connecting us to the upper world, feeling our hearts open, connecting us to other men who love men all around the globe. And we take a moment to breathe and realize we're the very heartbeat of the universe. And also remembering we have a physical body. I invite you to start wiggling your fingers and your toes, move your ankles and your wrists. Turn your neck and your head. Begin to pat your body and remind yourself you're also a physical person in the middle world. Feel your clothes on your skin, the ground beneath you or the seat beneath you. And when you're fully back, indicate you've returned to all those present by opening your eyes and saying, "Blessed be."
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Okay, we're going to actually stop the recording at this time if we could.